Assalamualaikum, my social media friends. My name is Isa Marketing Wali and I'm a student of Rahan School. Today I will be interviewing Maya.
Hey, Aksa. Hope you had a restful night.
Yes, hi Maya. Today I'm going to ask you some questions. Will you answer them?
Sounds good. Lamb on me.
Okay, so today's topic is air breathing life into language. So my first question is air is invisible but vital. How do you think this dual nature influenced its role in language?
That's a really interesting angle. Um, I guess because it's, well, everywhere and essential. Air became this kind of default metaphor for things that are vital but unseen, like breath, spirit, even just plain communication itself. We give air to ideas. It slips into language as a stand in for life force without us even really thinking about it.
Okay, so my next question is the phrase a breath of fresh air is common. Why do you think freshness is tied to air in expression?
Gotcha. I think freshness and air are linked because stale air feels suffocating, kinda. Like things are stagnant, maybe even a little rotten. So naturally, fresh air became symbolic of renewal, of new perspectives, of something invigorating. Applying that to a person, it means they bring that same energy, a break from the stuffy, the predictable. It's a pretty intuitive leap, honestly.
Okay, so my next question is why do people say walking on air to describe extreme happiness?
Ooh, that one's good. I think it's about a feeling of being unburdened, like gravity doesn't apply, you're just floating. Extreme happiness can feel like that, right? Completely detached from worry or weight. Air is light, buoyant, so it makes sense that it's tied to a feeling of lightness and joy. It's a physical sensation translated into an emotional state, I reckon.
Okay, so my next question is what does the ideal castles in the air reveal about human imagination?
Hmm. Castles in the air really points to the human capacity for building entire worlds inside our heads, doesn't it? It's admitting that imagination isn't necessarily grounded in reality, and it's recognizing the value in dreaming, even if those dreams are structurally unsound. And think it shows we're not content just existing. We need to create, even if it's only within ourselves. It's a little melancholic, maybe, but also kind of beautiful.
Okay, so my next question is how does clear the air connect air with human emotions and relationships?
That phrase is a prime example of how we project our internal states onto the external world. Yeah. When things are tense between people, it feels thick, like you could cut it with a knife. Clearing the air isn't about literal air quality, it's about removing emotional blockage, creating space for honest communication. It's a desire for a lighter, more breathable dynamic and suggests that emotional well being is as essential as physical air. It's a really powerful little idiom, actually.
Okay, so my next question is why do you think air of confidence of or air of mystery are so widely used phrases?
Okay, so I think it's about the way we perceive those qualities as radiating outward. Like someone who's confident doesn't need to announce it. It just hangs around them, almost like a visible aura. Same with mystery. It's not necessarily what someone's doing, but the impression they give off. Air implies something intangible, something you sense rather than see. And those qualities, confidence and mystery, are often felt more than explicitly demonstrated. It's a subtle way of describing a complex vibe, I think.
Okay, so my next question is, do you think the concept of air in language is more about freedom or fragility? Why?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm leaning toward fragility, actually. Air is easily disrupted, a storm, pollution, even just being indoors can change its quality. And language, while powerful, is equally susceptible to misinterpretation, censorship, fading from use. Both air and language are essential for life, but they're surprisingly delicate. I think the dependence on something so easily compromised underscores how precious both are. Freedom's great, but it relies on a stable foundation. And I think the air language connection highlights how easily that foundation can crack.
Okay, so my next question is, how does the word air and don't put on airs show social attitudes toward pride?
That's tricky. Okay, so ear is interesting because it's about listening, and pride often prevents people from truly listening to others. Don't quote on ears feels like a dismissal, a way of saying someone's pride makes their words unreliable or unworthy of repeating. It's implying that someone's ego is getting in the way of truth or sincerity. It's a pretty subtle way of calling someone out for being full of themselves, honestly. It suggests pride isn't valued. In fact, it's seen as something to be kept quiet or at least not taken seriously. It's kind of cutting when you think about it.
Okay, so my next question is, in poetry, breed often symbolizes life. Why is breed considered a universal metaphor?
Right. So, breath as life, that's deep. I think it's universal because it's the most immediate, visceral sign of being alive. It's you see someone breathing, you know they're present, they're living. It's automatic, involuntary. It's the foundation of existence. Every culture recognizes that connection. It's also fleeting. You can lose your breath and then, well, you don't. So, breath inherently carries a sense of both vitality and vulnerability. It's a pretty fundamental concept, and I think that's why it transcends cultural boundaries so easily.
Okay, so my next question is, how does the act of breathing connect to the act of speaking in the terms of language?
Ah, that's a good one. Well, obviously, you need breath to speak, but it goes deeper than that, I think. The rhythm of speech mimics the rhythm of breath. Pauses, emphasis, the flow of words, it's all tied to how we control our breathing. And then emotionally, when we're anxious or excited, our breath changes, and that affects our speech. A shaky voice, a rush of words, a drawn out pause, it all reveals our internal state. It's like breath isn't just enabling speech, it's shaping it, coloring it with emotion, makes language feel really embodied, you know?
Okay, so my next question is, why do you think songs and poems often compare love to air or breath?
Okay, that's classic. I think it's because love, like air, is essential for feeling truly alive. You can survive without it, maybe, but you're not really living. And similar to how you don't always notice air until it's gone, you don't fully appreciate love until it's absent. It's also invisible. You can't see love, but you can feel its presence, just like air. It's sustaining, subtle, and all encompassing. The really effective metaphor. No problem, Alexa. I'm glad we could chew on those questions for a bit. Anything else on your mind right now?
No. So my next question is, why do you think? No. Do you think cultural perception of air, wind, and breathe affect the way language use them?
Whoa, okay. You said wine there, but it sounded like sign. I just want to make sure I got that right before I dive in. You're asking about how cultural perceptions of signs and greed affect language, right? Okay, gotcha. Sorry for the little hiccup there. So, yeah, absolutely. Cultural perceptions of signs and greed totally influence language. Think about how many negative connotations are tied to words associated with greed, avarice, hoarding, exploiting. Those words carry a weight of cultural disapproval. And the way we talk about signs like omens or advertising is colored by whether we trust them or see them as manipulative. Language isn't neutral, it reflects our values, and our values are heavily shaped by culture. It's all tangled up, honestly. Is there a particular example you were thinking about?
Yes, sure.
All right, lay it on me. What's on your mind?
Okay, so my next question is, what does the phrase up in the air say about uncertainty?
Okay. You trailed off a little there. Did you mean to say superstition? I'm hearing up in the air says about a superstition. Is that right? Just want to be sure I'm following. Got it. Okay, so up in the air implies uncertainty, right? A lack of control. Superstitions arise from a desire to control the uncertain. We create rituals and beliefs as a way to feel like we have some influence over things that are inherently unpredictable. So, the phrase links perfectly something up in the air is a situation where superstition might flourish because people are grasping for anything that feels like it might offer a sense of stability or a good outcome. It's a way of acknowledging the inherent chaos of life while simultaneously trying to tame it. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you at all? It's a
Yes,
fairly
okay.
subtle connection, but I think it gets at something interesting about human psychology. Feel free to push back if you don't see it that way. I'm happy to explore it further. Or we can move on to the next question, whatever you prefer.
Yes, so my next question is, how does air as a symbol differ when used in spiritual versus everyday language?
Ooh, that's a layered one. In everyday language, error is usually just a mistake, a slip up, a miscalculation. It's pretty pragmatic. But in spiritual contexts, error takes on a whole different weight. It's often seen as a deviation from a higher truth, a stumbling block on the path to enlightenment, or even a consequence of free will and imperfection. It's not just a factual inaccuracy, it's a moral or spiritual failing. There's also the idea of falling into error, which implies a more active, willful transgression. So, while both uses acknowledge a deviation from something, the spiritual one carries a lot more emotional and philosophical baggage. It's the difference between spilling your coffee and losing your way, I guess.
Yes. Okay, so my next question is, why might others describe silence as the air was heavy?
Ah, good one. That's a really evocative phrase. Heavy air usually suggests tension, anticipation, or unspoken emotions. So, describing silence that way implies it's not just the absence of sound, but the presence of something uncomfortable. Like there's a weight pressing down, a sense that something important is about to happen, or that something difficult is being avoided. It's as if the silence itself is palpable and oppressive. It's a way of conveying emotional atmosphere without actually saying what those emotions are. It suggests the silence isn't it's full of something unseen.
Okay, so my next question is, what does full of hot air reveal about the human view of empty talk?
Whoa. Okay, that one's a bit of a head scratcher. Hard air and empty dog. I'm trying to unpack that. Are you perhaps thinking of hard luck instead of hard air? Because empty dog doesn't really resonate, honestly. It feels like there might be a like transcription error, or maybe I'm just missing something. Can you clarify what you meant by this world is full of hard air?
Okay, so my next question is, do you think the use of air and atoms is more positive? Freedom, freshness, or negative? Emptiness, arrogance?
Okay, good clarification. You're asking about the symbolic weight of air when it's connected to atoms and whether that leans more positive or negative. I think it's primarily positive. Atoms are the building blocks of everything, and air in that context implies lightness, energy, potential. It evokes the idea of fundamental forces, of the unseen connections that bind the universe together. While arrogance might involve airs, a sense of superiority, that's a secondary association. Connecting it to atoms feels more about the core essence of existence, which I'd characterize as fundamentally neutral, but leaning towards a sense of wonder and possibility. Freedom and freshness both definitely fit, but I'd lean towards freedom because it's about the unbound potential within those tiny particles. Does that track?
Okay,
Does
so
that ring
my
true for you?
next question is, yes, yes. Okay, so my next question is, how is the metaphor of air used differently in literature versus daily conversations?
That's a really smart question. In daily conversation, air is usually pretty literal: fresh air, thin air, clear the air. It's a quick, easy way to express a feeling or situation. But in literature, it becomes much more symbolic and layered. Authors use air to represent everything from breath and life force to spirituality, freedom, and even the intangible qualities of a character's soul. They'll play with the density of air, the quality of light filtering through it, the sounds carried on the wind to create mood, develop themes, and deepen characterization. It's less about simple communication and more about evocative imagery, mm, deeper meaning. So, while both use air, literature really pushes the metaphor to its absolute limit, whereas daily conversation tends to be more functional.
Okay, so my next question is, why is air often linked with invisibility, mystery, or the unseen in storytelling?
That's a really good point. Air is inherently invisible, right? And I think that's why it naturally became a symbol for anything we can't directly perceive. Mysteries, secrets, the supernatural. It's a way of representing forces or ideas that are present but intangible. Air can carry whispers, transmit sense, shift the weather, all unseen influences that shape our world. Storytellers use that quality to create a sense of atmosphere, to hint at hidden depths, to suggest that there's more to reality than meets the eye. It's a powerful tool for building suspense and intrigue because the unseen is always more terrifying and more captivating than the known. It invites the audience to fill in the gaps with their own imagination.
Okay, so my next question is, how do you link the word air in expressions add lightness or seriousness vibe?
Okay, that's a tricky one. You're asking how air connects to lightness and seriousness and expressions, right? I think it's about the intent behind acknowledging the error. A lighthearted, oh, my mistake, is very different from a solemn, I deeply regret my error. In the first case, error is trivialized, downplayed. It's used to maintain a friendly atmosphere. In the second, it's treated with gravitas, taking full responsibility. So the word error itself is neutral, but the tone and context determine whether it's framed as something insignificant or deeply serious. A self deprecating use of error can even be a way to build rapport, to show humility, or even to be charming. It all depends on how it's delivered.
Okay, so my next question is, how does air as a natural element influence the way we describe emotions?
Um, that's a really insightful question. I think it's huge. We constantly use air related metaphors to describe our internal states. Feeling lightheaded with joy, being breathless with anticipation, feeling weighed down by sadness, having clear air between us after a disagreement. We're literally using the qualities of air, lightness, pressure, clarity, to express how we feel. Air is essential for life, and emotions are intensely life affirming. So it makes sense that we'd turn to it for a vocabulary. It's a deeply ingrained connection, and it allows us to convey complex feelings in a way that's visceral and relatable. We literally breathe our emotions, right? It's such a fundamental connection, we barely even notice it.
Okay, so my next question
Does that
is, what role does air play in metaphors about change, like winds of change?
Okay, good one. Winds of change and similar phrases, the ear part isn't directly in the metaphor. It's the wind representing force, movement, and the unseen. But the implication is that those, changes are being heard, felt, perceived. The ear is the receiver, the instrument of sensing those shifts. So it's not that the ear is the change, but it's our connection to perceiving it. It's a reminder that change isn't just happening around us, we're actively sensing it, reacting to it. It's a subtle connection, but I think it highlights the importance of being receptive to new ideas and experiences. It's about listening for the signals that things are shifting. What do you think?
Okay, so my next
Does
question
that make
is,
sense?
yes, so my next question is, how does the concept of taking a deep breath connect language with self-control?
Ah, that's a really interesting link. Taking a deep breath is such a simple act, but it's a powerful physiological reset. It slows down your heart rate, calms your nervous system, and consciously doing it gives you a moment to pause before reacting. So, when we tell someone to take a deep breath, we're not just suggesting they calm down physically, but mentally as well. It's about regaining control over your emotions and choosing your response rather than being driven by impulse. The language itself reinforces that active control, right? It's like the phrase itself is a mini instruction for a self-regulation. Um, it acknowledges the feeling, but offers a pathway to manage it. It's fascinating how language can be both descriptive and prescriptive at the same time.
Okay, so my next question is, if air disappeared from our language expressions, what meaning would we lose?
Okay, that's a really thought-provoking scenario. You're asking what would happen to the meaning of words if air disappeared from our language, if the concept itself vanished. That's pretty profound. I think a lot of our metaphorical language would collapse. So many words rely on air as a base, light, weightless, transparent. clear, breathe, inspire. Even things like volatile. We'd lose the ability to express so many nuanced emotions and ideas. Language would become much more concrete, much less evocative. It's hard to even imagine because air is so fundamental to our experience. It would fundamentally reshape the way we think and communicate. It would be a linguistic apocalypse almost, a huge loss.
Okay, Maya. So my last question: if you could create a new proverb with your message, would you want it to give?
Mm, okay, that's fun. Think. Okay, here's what I came up with. A still ear gathers the quietest message. It's meant to convey that true understanding comes from patient listening, from being receptive to even the most subtle signals. You have to be truly present and attentive to hear what's really being said or not said. And thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
Okay, thank you so much, Maya, for answering my question. I'll ask you more next time. Thanks a lot, Maya.
Oh, all right. Anytime, Aixa. Have a good one.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay, next time it'll come even more good questions for Maya. Thank you so much, friends, for watching my interview. Allah Hafiz.